With the president's approval sagging, a growing number of Democratic lawmakers are stepping into the 24 debate to defend Biden against the Republicans hoping to beat him. One relative newcomer here in Washington has begun to make a name for himself, calling out GOP candidates, including my previous guest, one-time Governor Nikki Haley. Joining me now, Massachusetts Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss. Congressman, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
It's such a pleasure to be on.
Okay, so you heard what she said in response to your sort of critique of her China policy, and she said you have to acknowledge where they've built up their military and other hypersonic missiles and things where the U.S. is not keeping up. Valid point by her?
Her commentary is all hat, no cattle. First of all, as a Marine veteran, I think it's outrageous that she's saying that the Chinese military is stronger than the United States military. She should know better as someone who was governor of South Carolina, home of Parris Island, the crucible of U.S. Marines. I doubt she would walk onto Parris Island and tell Marine recruits that they're joining the second best military in the world.
But when it comes to things like weaponry or those kinds of advances or a bigger Navy, those kinds of things, equipment, I mean, is that a valid critique?
We, of course, need to invest in military strength, and the U.S. Marine Corps has pivoted to the Indo-Pacific for Force Redesign 2030, Army, Navy following suit. But we have to think holistically, and to use her own term, we have to think critically, creatively, and courageously. And she's failing her own test here. First of all, critically, she is just using partisan talking points to hit President Biden's foreign policy without actually engaging on the substance. So when Joe Biden took office, he didn't throw out the Abraham Accords because Donald Trump had negotiated them. He didn't throw out the 301 tariffs on China because Donald Trump had imposed them. No, he engaged with the substance of the policy and persisted some things that were working. Nikki Haley is coming in there without actually offering what she might keep or improve upon. She's just kind of throwing out barbs to do it. Number two, creatively, she's talking about cutting R&D funding for the United States, which is a surefire way for us to not outcompete the scientific and economic behemoth that is China. And then finally, and this is the most important one to me, is courage. She was the UN ambassador when Donald Trump went to Helsinki in 2018, gave a press conference standing next to Vladimir Putin that both former GOP presidential nominees called, quote, disgraceful. She said nothing. And without courage, no other virtues can be made possible.
All right, let's talk about China, because there's been a lot made of the fact that they don't seem to have a great deal of fear and respect, at least not publicly, for this administration. The incursion with our jets, our warships, the spy balloon that flew over that there's been no apology for. Secretary Blinken was just over there, and we're told that during his meeting with officials and with President Xi over there, that he was lectured about how the U.S. is the one to blame for the breakdown in our relationship. We have to do more to fix it. They refuse to reopen military-to-military communication, which everybody, regardless of party, seems to agree. Yes. That needs to happen. Chinese came out of the meeting and sent the message then that we had moved toward their position on Taiwan. The Federalist grades the trip this way. They say it accomplished nothing but humiliation. How can the U.S. maintain the confidence of our allies in its role as the leader of the free world when our officials are consistently being humiliated and scolded by CCP officials so publicly? Did they get more out of that meeting than we did?
No. I disagree with the CCP that we're more to blame than they are. That's wrong. Xi Jinping is a dictator, and he views individuals as pawns of the state. We view individuals as having inherent worth and dignity, and we're going to win that ideological contest in the 21st century. But Secretary Blinken landed in China from a position of strength. We have strengthened our Indo-Pacific alliances, Australia, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, our freedom of navigation maneuvers in the South China Sea and the East China Sea. We have demonstrated that we are going to be a Pacific hegemon for decades to come. We have put their military friend of no limits, Russia, on a path to strategic defeat in Ukraine, despite the GOP trying to cut funds for that effort.
Well, but they are still, the vast majority of them over there fighting and making the case, Republicans in the Senate and the House, the vast majority of them, that more money needs to continue to flow in aid. There is, just within, the parties, there's always going to be a fracture over certain things.
We saw a party line vote in House Armed Services 2 weeks ago. Now, 2 weeks ago, the Ukrainians are poised for a counteroffensive, trying to break through in the southeast to cut the land bridge to Crimea. Wagner Group is poised to march on Moscow. So an opportune moment for us to be on the offensive. House GOP vote, party line vote, and Armed Services Committee markup of the defense budget to cut $500 million of funding for Ukraine. Think about the message that sends to our allies fighting on the front lines of the free world. Nikki Haley says nothing about it. I know she claims that we should support Ukraine. The real test is whether you're willing to stand up to your own party and say you are wrong. We're going to be with Ukraine all the way to Crimea.
Okay, let's talk about Afghanistan because you served there. Thank you for that in uniform. You've seen the problems up close. You know how complex and what a disaster it was over there for many decades. So we've got this after action report there. You had said in a piece in late August before the bombing at Kabul airport that cost 13 lives that the president was making the right moves, the very difficult decision to pull out. But you wanted to know more about what happened with us turning over Bagram Air Base. I saw only a passing mention of it in this after action report from the State Department this week. So what questions do you still have? Was there enough there that can help us not to make these same mistakes?
The military is one of the best institutions in the U.S. government about conducting rigorous after-action reviews. We used to call them no-ranks debriefs. Everybody took off their rank, and it was just a fair and tough assessment of what went wrong. And I agree that we're going to need to investigate decisions around Bagram Air Base. Having said that, the bigger mistake here would have been to keep troops in Afghanistan for another decade, another $1 trillion, more lives lost for a war that could not be won because we had no nation-building partner in Kabul.
But do you agree that the way the withdrawal happened, the timing of it, there have been critics all over the political spectrum who've said that did not need to happen the way that it did, and it cost us 13 service members?
There is no right way to end a failed war. President Biden had the moral courage to tell the American people that our resources and strategic focus was best used in the Indo-Pacific to take on China. And in any accelerated timeline, and I agree that there was not enough intelligence assessment about how fast the Afghan government was going to fall, because I don't think even we realized just how broken their political institutions were. But the core decision was the right one strategically, which was to get out of a war that could not be won and to focus on our true geostrategic threat.
All right, let's talk domestic because you're a supporter of President Biden and his re-election campaign. He's out there talking Biden economics, Bidenomics. We've got two polls, though, that show Americans do not feel like things are going well for them. The first, when we ask about their personal financial situation, 88% of them feel like they're either actively falling behind or just holding steady. In that same poll, 60% say they disapprove of how the president has handled the economy. 90% say they're still extremely worried about the issue of inflation. CBO also puts out a long-term estimate that says the president is setting us up for an explosion of debt. Relative to the GDP, it will outflank it at some point. Is this his best argument on the campaign trail?
Many Americans are saying that in their personal financial situation, and there's other polls besides yours that have above 70% saying that they are in relatively good shape, but that they're assessing the overall economy as being actually much worse than the actual GDP numbers suggest. But the campaign hasn't even started yet. Joe Biden's got a year to talk about the incredible investments that we made in infrastructure and domestic manufacturing and science and research in this economy that's going to improve standards of living. Last term, we passed a bipartisan law that invested in roads and bridges, in electricity, in affordable internet. A couple months ago, I was in one of the redder cities in my district with a Republican mayor touring those bridges that were going to get fixed with Democrats and Republicans from across the city. As more and more of those events happen, I think we're going to see that Americans feel the impact, whatever we call it here in the Beltway, of generational investments in this economy.
We will continue to watch those numbers. And by the way, you've got an op-ed up at foxnews.com, by the way, that talks about how Republicans can work with Democrats on a new tax bill. You give some advice there. We'll see if lawmakers heed it. Folks should check it out.
Appreciate you having me on.
Armerson, thanks for coming in. All right, up next, this 4th of July weekend has been a nightmare for holiday travelers. We're going to discuss the infuriating mess and who's to blame when our Sunday panel returns. Next.